So today, ladies and gentlemen, on the Coaching Masters podcast and Power Hour for everybody watching live, we are going to be talking about how to build resilience, okay? Now, we're not just talking about resilience and in a theoretical way. By the end of today's Power Hour, I am going to have given you a solid technique, right? A solid exercise, a solid process in which you can use as of today, as of right now, for you to be able to help you build resilience and overcome difficult times in your life. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a process today called the 3 Ps. Not B for buttocks. Not P. Would it just be P and B? Not D for dynamite. I'm not going to be too rude. P for persistence. There you go. That's why that, interestingly enough, is actually the first word that popped into my head when I said P, right? Nothing dirty, not here. Buttocks, that's not dirty, is it? Come on, that's a biological term. That's just what you see up on those graphs of like the what muscle looks like attached to bone. Anyway. So the 3 Ps. Now, there's something I want to talk to you about. Our ability to deal with hard things, difficult times, moments of adversity, is determined by the 3 Ps. Okay? And this is why this episode of Power Hour is going to be so valuable for everybody. Now, our ability to deal with difficult moments in our life is fully determined by the 3 Ps. Now, this is going to be something that will open your eyes. This is going to be something that will shift your perspective and raise your awareness to help you. Now, the 3 Ps, this is the way in which we see the world. This is the way in which we see the world through times of adversity and times of trouble. The 3 Ps are personalization. And don't worry, I'm going to dive into these in detail, right? Because even at the moment, you're like, I don't even know what we're talking about. By the end of today's session, you absolutely will. The 3 Ps are personalization, permanence, and pervasiveness. Okay? Now that's a fucking tongue twister, isn't it? Personalization, permanence, and pervasiveness. If I had has anyone seen that episode of Friends where Gary Oldman is like, he's a soldier and him and Joey are acting and they keep spitting in each other's faces because they say that that's what good acting is. This would be the perfect moment for that. The perfect moment for personalization, permanence, and pervasiveness, right? So personalization, let's look at this one first and foremost. What is personalization when we're trying to think of a problem? Now, personalization is thinking that we are the problem, instead of considering outside things that have caused the problem. That's personalization. Personalization is seeing the problem as ourselves, instead of thinking about the outside forces that may have contributed to the problem. Now, realizing that outside factors have caused a bad situation allows us to reduce the blame and the criticism that we put on ourselves. Right? So just think about that for a moment. When we're faced with adversity, when we're in times of trouble, what do we often do? We look in on ourselves to blame ourselves and try to see as to why we are the problem. But what we must do, and I'm going to give you some examples for this, and I'm going to give you some exercises. If we're able to look at the outside factors that have contributed towards the problem and towards the bad situation, it removes our need to constantly blame ourselves and constantly criticize ourselves for being inside of adversity and experiencing a problem. How often do we find ourselves doing something like spilling coffee and saying, "Oh, you're such an idiot"? What we want to do is we want to try to stop ourselves and remove ourselves from the area of personalization, right? Then there's permanence as well. This is a huge problem when it comes to living inside of moments of adversity and struggle and needing to build resilience. Permanence is thinking that the bad situation you currently find yourself in will last forever. Now, permanence is thinking that a bad situation will last forever. How often do we find ourselves in moments of adversity where we cannot see the light at the end of the tunnel? We cannot see the end result. We cannot ever see ourselves moving through that moment of adversity, because in that moment, it feels as though it will last forever. Now, those people who think that setbacks are temporary, they have an improved ability to accept and adapt for the future. And that is what we're trying to do. This is where we're trying to get. We are trying to remove the personalization. So we are trying to remove the idea that we are always the one to blame. And we are trying to remove the permanence. So we're trying to remove the idea that the problem we're experiencing will last forever. And those people that fully understand that setbacks are temporary, they have an improved ability to accept and adapt the future. So this is what we're trying to achieve. And of course, then there is pervasiveness. Pervasiveness is thinking that a bad situation applies across all areas of your life. Okay? Now that is something that is so common. So many people experience that pervasiveness. Instead of only happening in one area, we think as though if something is bad and we are experiencing adversity in one area, then we must also be bad in other areas, right? I'll give you an example. Like, for instance, we might lose our job and then we may say, oh, well, I've lost my job, which is the professional area of your life. And we might then convince ourselves, because we've lost our job, we must also be bad parents. It's pervasiveness, okay? We don't want this, right? We don't want to create this in our lives. We want to be able to shift our mindset and have a different viewpoint around this, okay? And we're going to be able to do that because people who think that bad situations are pervasive and they're able to completely hone in on these individual areas of their lives and say that actually this one area of my life is not working. But that does not mean the other areas of my life are not working. Those people that are able to view their adversity in that sense have a much greater resilience to the adversity that they're experiencing. So this is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be going through an exercise which will allow us to change our perspective around the troublesome situation that we find ourselves in. What I want everybody to do is I want everybody to think about a situation that you find yourselves in. A troublesome situation, a situation of adversity, a situation that is holding you back, bringing you down, making you feel bad. A situation in which you need an elevated sense of resilience, okay? Now, for all of you, it's going to be completely individual, right? It's going to be completely individual. Now, a great example of that is you could walk into a room. There could be 100 people in that room, and 99 of them, they really like you and they think you're a great person. And one of them doesn't like you. And all too often we will put our focus in on the one person that doesn't like us. And we feel as though if that person doesn't like us, it must mean nobody likes me. That huge generalization of nobody. We do this with areas of our life and it does squash the positive. And then what tends to happen is all of the people that do like you, all of your actual friends, get neglected because you bring all of your time and your attention onto the one person who doesn't. That is only one example. It's more of a metaphor in many respects, but it's a metaphor for areas of our life. We could have a tremendous home life. We could have an excellent family life. We could have an excellent love life. We could have an excellent relationship with our children. We could have so many different areas of our life where we feel utterly proud because we have built something great. And then if there is one area of your life that is filled with adversity, that one area of your life gets to convince us that actually that must mean that all of these other areas are not that good either. It's pervasiveness. we are trying to avoid that. It's one of those universal things that we tend to experience together as human beings. Even though we're all utterly unique, there are certain things that we do experience near enough the same. And that's very much one of them. Until you master the 3P exercise. P for peach, P for perseverance, P for pervasiveness, P for packed lunch. So let's jump into the exercise of the 3P exercise. So as I go through this exercise today, what I want everybody to do is I want everybody to have in the forefront of their mind adversity that you're experiencing, something that you would like to gain more resilience, right, over. And this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to change our perspective. So I would like you to pick a hard experience that is happening for you right now. Pick something that you're struggling with. Pick something that's going wrong. And what I want you to do is I'm going to give you an example, right, of this. I'm going to give you almost like a template that you guys can use moving forward. And what I want you to do is I want you to write out within this template how you could think about the situation that you're in, how you're currently thinking about it as personal, as permanent, and as pervasive. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change your point of view. We're going to change your perspective to see how we could possibly look at the situation you're in as impersonal, impermanent, and specific, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you an example of this, because if I give you an example, what it will do is it will allow you to fill in the blanks for your own situation. So let me give you an example. Let's say, for example, that you lost your job. Now, if you lost your job, there are certain ways that you may think that that is personal to you. You may think and feel things such as, I am not good enough. I am not a good enough person to be in that job. Well, I've lost my job, which means it must obviously mean that I'm not good enough, right? It must obviously mean that there's something wrong with me. This is something that lots of people experience on a constant basis when they're experiencing times of adversity, right? That's personal. Then we move on to permanent. You may think, I will never find another job, right? I've lost my job. It was the only job I could ever have. It was the only thing I could ever do. I will never find another job. And that is when we're then making the situation permanent, right? And then we make it pervasive. I've lost my job, and that must mean I have also failed as a parent. I've lost my job. That must also mean I will never again have any money. I've lost my job, and that must also mean that I've failed as a husband or a wife, right? We make it pervasive. We don't make it singular. We don't make it specific. We taint all these other areas of our life with the same thing. So think about that for a minute. How much more of a problem are you putting on your own plate when you make the problem personal, permanent, and pervasive, right? You're taking this problem, and by the way, I'm not completely innocent of this. We're human beings. This is what we do. But this is why we need techniques to help us overcome these problems. What we're doing is we're taking a problem and we are massively blowing it out of proportion by making it personal, i.e., I must be the problem, making it permanent, i.e., this problem will last forever, and making it pervasive, i.e., this problem means I have other problems, right? So what do we want to do? We want to go on a mission to make the problem impersonal, impermanent, and specific. Let me give you an example. Right, I've lost my job. That must mean that in some way, the company is struggling. And my skill set didn't fit their current needs in today's climate. Right? Nothing to do with me. It's not that I'm not a good enough person. It's not that I'm not good enough for the job, because I am. But what it must mean is that the company are in a bad situation. They're struggling financially. They can't afford me. It must also mean that the skill set that I have just doesn't fit in with their structure right now in this particular moment. But it will at some point, and it would have done previously, but just not right now. But it's nothing to do with me. How much easier is it to digest a problem when you make the problem impersonal? When you take the problem and you move it away from you, right? Now, this isn't about giving up all sense of responsibility. Not at all. This is about raising awareness around the fact that most of the time, we give ourselves too much of a hard time. Way too much of a hard time. And we do it on a constant basis. This is about still accepting any form of responsibility that you need to accept, but also understanding that there are always outside forces affecting everything that happens in your life. Losing your job is one example of this, right? I want you listening to this now to create your own examples based on adversity that you are currently experiencing. That person who has lost their job, they might not know for a fact that the reason they lost their job is because the company is struggling financially. However, is it possible? Yes, it is. And the sheer fact that it's possible, that is enough for us to make it impersonal and say, you know what? It could have actually have been for thousands of different reasons as to why that happened. Think about the knock-on effect, the domino effect, the butterfly effect of one thing affecting another, affecting another, affecting another, affecting another. Every single thing that's happening in our lives at any one time is the result of tens and hundreds and thousands and hundreds of thousands and millions of outside forces that we have not had any control over, that have all, like dominoes, knocked over the next one and the next one and the next one to eventually reach us and affect something in our lives. Blaming ourselves entirely is completely fucking useless. Plus, it's inaccurate. It's always inaccurate. We are not always 100% solely to blame for the adversity in our lives. We may play a part, and there are moments we need to take responsibility. That is absolutely true. But just to be completely self-deprecating, I think it was deprecating, wasn't it, Georgia? And putting the attention in on ourselves to just blame ourselves and criticize ourselves deeply is not going to help us solve the problem. Look, but I've not yet launched my coaching business because the world ain't ready for me, right? Now, that's a lot lighter than saying because I'm lazy, because I'm unfocused, because I've not bothered, because I've not blah, 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 I'm not good enough, I'm not blah, blah. No. It's because the world isn't ready quite yet, and the world will be ready very soon. Toya, mine is creating engaging content, so I find it hard to make it impersonal. Well, think about this, Toya. You don't make content just for you, do you? The reason as to why you make content is to put out there to the rest of the world. So if the reason as to why you haven't yet made the content, a way of making that impersonal is because you need to get to a point where you fully understand the mindset and the psyche and the needs and the desires of the people you're creating the content for, not just because you haven't done it yet, or you haven't been bothered, or you haven't had the energy, you haven't had the time. You know, there's always some form of outside force contributing towards what it is we do. Always. Okay, so Jason, I haven't got many clients at the moment, but I'm choosing to believe that the world is experiencing lots of uncertainty at the moment due to the economic situation and the pandemic. Exactly. Instead of, it must be that I'm not good enough. No, not at all. Make it impersonal by understanding there are always outside forces, right? Always. Erin says, love that. Sometimes it's our business. Sometimes in our business, we're told it's all on you if you're successful or not with your business. It leads to so much negative self-talk. It's never all on us. That's the real fucking secret here that they don't tell you about, right? It's never all 100% entirely on us. It's down to us, of course, to be self-motivated, to take action, to shift our perspective, to move forward. We can't do that for other people. But of course, we're living in this world of outside forces. There's no denying that, right? We live in a world in which outside forces absolutely contribute towards who we are, what we do, how we think, and the results we get. So the more that we can accept that there are outside forces always contributing towards what it is we do, then it takes the attention and the weight off of our own shoulders, right? So the next thing that we want to do is we want to make sure that the problem that we're experiencing is impermanent, right? Impermanent. We want to totally fucking remove this idea that the adversity that you're experiencing right now in this very moment is going to last forever. Throw that out the window completely. Like, for instance, with the example of the person that lost their job, one very good way of making that impermanent will say, I will find a job soon, right? This will not last forever. This downtime will not last forever. This rut will not last forever. How do I know that? Because things change. We all know really deep down that life is a constant series of changes. Even if those changes take a long time or they take a short time, life is a constant series of changes, right? If you are in a bad situation right now, it will not last forever. What's that really famous saying where they say, it will all be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end? And that is absolutely true. Honestly, everything will be okay in the end. And if it's not okay, it's not the end. It means that you're currently going through the journey. If we can get that into our heads and understand that actually things will be okay in the end, and if it's not okay, it's not the end, then we fully accept we are just simply in the middle of a process of change. And we're not at an end result. None of us right now are experiencing an end result. I don't care if you're 18 or if you're 98, right? My grandmother is this 98-year-old Irish woman who dances for an hour a day to Daniel O'Donnell's jigs, walks 5 miles to Tower Bridge in London, 5 miles back, is as healthy as anything. And she's got dreams. She's got dreams and desires, right? She's an actress. She wants to break into movies. She's fucking 98 years old, this woman, right? None of us are at the end until we are at the end. And I know none of us are at the end because we're all breathing. And as long as we're breathing, times will change. We will change. People will change. If you are experiencing a moment of adversity right now, it will change. Now, what you can do is take a little bit of an added responsibility to try to accelerate the change by taking action, by getting out of your comfort zone, by doing things that you know will help accelerate the change. But regardless of that, times will change anyway, whether we like it or not, because that's the way the world works. These problems are not permanent. They're impermanent. Her name is Bridget, but we all call her Bridie. Bridie Collins. And honestly, guys, what I'll do after this, I'll upload a video of her doing her Irish jig on her 98th birthday. And it's fucking hell, like, honestly, there's this picture of her on her 90th birthday where we all went to France and she's wearing a swimming costume on the beach. And she looks amazing. It's absolutely incredible. I'm very lucky to have those jeans. And I hope I got those fucking jeans anyway. But time will tell. But yeah, she's incredible, guys. It's never the end until it's the end. And if you're going through a moment of adversity, times will change. It's not permanent, right? We must remind ourselves of this. And then, of course, to avoid that pervasiveness, we must make the situation specific to the area in which it exists. So, for instance, once again, that example of losing the job, right? The example of losing your job. We would say to ourselves, this applies to work. This does not apply to my family life. This does not apply to my hobbies. This does not apply to my social life. This does not apply to my love life. This does not apply to my other interests. This applies only solely to that one area where I am experiencing adversity. Because we so badly fall into that place of perversiveness. We so badly fall into it, where we become fixated on the problem that we are experiencing, that not only do we neglect the other areas of our life which are good, and the people in our life which are good and that love us, but we actually also start to convince ourselves that those areas must also not be very good. And it's a fucking crime, right? It's a travesty. Let's make sure we hold the problem that we're experiencing in the specific area in which it exists. So we make it impersonal where we can, right? Because like Toya said, of course, when Toya had that example of like writing content, it's got to come from me. It can be difficult to think of the ways of doing that. There's always outside forces contributing towards what it is we either do or do not do. So just completely remove the idea that we are the only ones that are solely responsible for anything. Because even if we have a personal responsibility, that personal responsibility is of course being affected by outside forces contributing towards the way our life is. If we can just wrap our heads around that, all we're trying to do is take the fucking pressure off of our own shoulders and say, I can breathe now because it's not all on me, right? It's not all because of me. It's not because I'm a bad person. It's not because I'm stupid. It's not because I'm weak. It's none of that bullshit. It is, of course, due to outside forces, right? Contributing towards that. Also, it's not permanent. It won't last forever. It's only a temporary glitch. It's only a temporary bump in the road. We will overcome. Things will change. How do I know? Because they always do, and they always have. And then, of course, we also make the problem specific, right? And we say, and also, this problem I'm experiencing is only in this one area of my life. And I tell you a fantastic thing to do when you come to that final realization and final conclusion. You go to the other areas of your life that are still good, and you pay them some respect and love and attention. If at the moment your adversity is within your business, but you have children that love you, or you have a partner that loves you, or you have hobbies that you enjoy, or you have a home that you really love, make sure you go and you pay a bit of love and time and attention to those people and those places and those things. Because it's all too easy to put all of our focus on the thing that is going wrong and therefore neglect the things that are not wrong, the things that are going well. If you do that, it also makes it a lot easier to deal with the adversity and the thing that's going wrong. So guys, just very quickly to recap that, because it's been an important process today. I want you all to follow the 3 Ps when it comes to building up resilience in moments in your life. For those of you that know me, honestly, you will know that I firmly believe that gratitude is honestly like the magic pill. It's the thing that will fucking save us. If we can genuinely focus our time and attention onto the things in our life that are not wrong, the things that if they were going wrong, we would hate it, but they're not. The things we take for granted, the people we take for granted, the places, the things, the events. If we can put all of our focus in on the things that we're very grateful for, then life is a good thing. My personal process of doing that is I know that in the world of manifestation, a lot of people would try to avoid this. I actively think about the things that I fear. I actively think about them, and I think about them often, and I think about them deeply. And I actively think about losing the things and the people that I love, so that in that moment, I can click my fingers and snap out of it. And it's almost as if I had lost all of those things. I wished for them to be back, and now they are back. It's fucking amazing. It's almost like you get your wish come true every single day. So in order to build resilience, just as we round this off, right, we want to step away from making our problems personal, permanent, and pervasive. And we want to step into finding ways in which they can be impersonal, impermanent, and specific. And if you do that, ladies and gentlemen, you will build a lot more resilience around the moments of adversity and the moments of trouble in your lives with the 3 Ps. And never forget, there are many things in your life right now, in this very moment, that you will have, should have, and want to embrace a deep level of gratitude for. There are things in your life right now that if you were without them, they were to be taken away or lost or damaged or hurt, you'd be devastated. But they're not. They're okay. And they're here. And they're alive. And they're healthy. And everything is okay. Let's put our time and attention onto those things. and not solely onto the things that are going wrong. And the things that are going wrong, just take them through the 3 Ps and it makes them a lot easier.